day to everyone watching us. Hello everybody who is in high spirits. Our greetings to those whose souls are filled with sorrows. We say hello to all who likes to be on their own, and to those who enjoy a good company of their friends. Hello all of you who are fond of traveling. We invite you on a short tour about Slonim, a cozy little town with unique and fascinating sights in Grodno region. But today we are going to show you a special face of our town. Our country is situated at the crossroad of different cultures, and this fact made our nation a tolerant one. Slonim is a good example of tolerant, peaceful coexistence of four main religious confessions: Orthodox and Catholic religions, Judaism and Islam. For this feature of our town, we can be grateful firstly to Lithuanian kings who invited the task of the Golden Horde to guard our borders, and secondly to Yekaterina II who declared the Pale of Settlement of the Jewish population here. That's why our excursion is called Slonim Interconfessional. To start with, we invite you to our gymnasium museum, which is called We Have Been Given the Heritage. This museum is dedicated to the history of four religious confessions which have always existed on the territory of Slonim region since the times of Grand Duchy of Lithuania. As you can see, it consists of two chambers.
You may ask us why the first exhibition of our museum is devoted to Oleg Bembil. You see, he is our spiritual teacher, he patronizes our gymnasium, and what is more, he promoted the creation of this museum and contributed a lot in process, both with advice and money. On this stand you can find some books by Oleg Bembil and some of his personal things. Oleg Bembil is a well-known Orthodox poet in Belarus. His nickname is Znich. After his father's death he fell seriously ill. In search of remedies, he visited Jurovichi and stayed there forever. Now he is a monk, but he didn't give up literature. He's still writing poems, and we are proud of having some books by Oleg Bembil with his autograph as a gift. The other section of this chamber shows the main element of any Orthodox church, the Imperial Gate. It was made by the monks of Jurovichi Monastery. It is crowned with the icon Last Supper, Virgin Mary, and Savior. In the center there are figures of four evangelists: Mark, Matthew, Luke, and John.
To the second room, which contains the information about four main religions of our country. The central part is occupied by Orthodox religion as it was first introduced on our territory by Yaroslav I and then supported and developed by Lithuanian dukes. Up to the 14th century it had been the dominant religion of our country. According to the archives, there were 6 Orthodox churches only in Slonim in the 16th century. But later, some of them were ruined. But luckily, beginning with the 23rd century, the number of them became the same. The exposition tells the story of the most known churches of Slonim and Slonim region, their architecture and their sometimes tragic history. Here you can see different exhibits presented to our museum by clergymen and civil people. Among quite rare things, there are 3 psalm books which date back to the 18th and 19th century. We've got them as presents from Jurovichi Monastery. There are 2 main Orthodox churches in the town center. But to have a closer look at them, we will leave our museum for a while and visit them. When you come to Slonim from any part of the world, probably the first thing to notice is the golden domes of Sviato-Preobrazhensky or Transfiguration Cathedral. It is one of the biggest cathedrals in Grodno region. Can you imagine? 5,000 believers can take part in the service in it at once. By the way, it is a new site.
built on the spot of the old church which stood here in the 16th century. It had a religious society, a shelter for the poor and homeless, and school in which children were taught reading, writing, arithmetic, and church sitting. But already the 16th century saw the appearance of Catholic churches in Slonim. The first Catholic church was built not far from Preobrazhenskaya church. It is an interesting fact that for its construction Jan Sapega invited an Italian architect, who built a copy of the church Il Gesù in Rome. It housed famous icons by Smuglevich. When in the 18th century our country was occupied by Russia, Catholic churches were persecuted and changed into the Orthodox ones. So the above-mentioned Catholic church was rebuilt into Orthodox. But it was badly damaged in the Second World War, and then in 1963 the ruins were blown up. During the construction work, some part of the underground passages were discovered, which proves the fact that in feudal times there were a great number of them under the town, and they connected the churches and the castle. The building itself has preserved some Catholic features, such as the form of the building and Baroque pediments, but the number of domes has been increased to 5. The building is constructed in a pseudo-Russian style. The interior is magnificent with its 3-level iconostasis, which looks as if it is trimmed with marble. One more Orthodox church in the center of Slonim is St. Trinity Church. The building of Trinity Cathedral in Slonim is a monument of architecture built in the Baroque style. Also, it features the elements of Rococo. Its history resembles the history of the previous church. In the 16th century, there was a small wooden church in this place. It housed a precious icon of Antony Pechersky, the chief Russian monk. People in thousands came to worship him. But, as it is often happened on our territories, at the end of the 16th century, the Orthodox believers were deprived of their temple and it was soon ruined. In its place, they built a brick Catholic church. Catholics introduced their Saint Antony Paduansky for worships. According to historical documents, in 1867 the building was again returned to Orthodox believers and then again to Catholics. And finally, in the 1940s, it was given back to Orthodox believers, and in 2002 it became a cathedral.
Now let's move to another exhibition of our museum, which is devoted to Catholic religion. We'd like to point out that for many years Belarus had been an Orthodox country, but after we became part of Rech Pospolita in 16th-17th centuries, another branch of Christianity, the Catholic religion began to spread actively on Belarusian lands. The majority of Catholic monasteries are in small towns like ours. Only imagine there were monasteries of Bernardines, Bernardincas, Lutherans, Franciscans, Benedictines, Dominicans and Jesuits. The monasteries were built of bricks and were included in the town's defense systems. Many of them were connected by underground passages and had many hiding places. As for the architecture, it followed the best samples of West European art. The buildings had richly decorated interiors. The service was accompanied with vocal singing and instrumental music. All these things aimed at strengthening the position of Catholics on Orthodox lands and thus attract more believers. By the way, there were 7 monastery complexes in our town. Now we have only 3. The 2 of them we are going to visit.
The first Catholic temple on our list is the Church of Virgin Mary. This place is especially dear to me, as I come here every Sunday. This place where I hold my first communion. This building, in general, has features of places Rococo and Baroque. It was once part of a large monastery complex. It was erected thanks to Konstantin Yuditsky in 1648, because he had promised that to his parents. He sacrificed his own money to build a wooden home for nuns who lived in Vilna at that time. Then it was renovated under the guidance of a famous master of those times, Jürgen Gedel. There were 5 altars. He also decorated the church inside, but unfortunately we can't see that old building now as it was destroyed by fire. Now we are going to enter the church. But be quiet, our priest is singing.
О Боже, помоги нам жить и в трудностях Тебя хвалить. Мы просим, дай нам дар любви и мира. И если будет трудно нам, лишь вера помогает нам. Дай всем нам свою силу. Аллилуйя. Аллилуйя.
The building which we have now dates back to the end of the 18th century. The same as with Orthodox churches, its fate was rather unhappy. It was closed for some time and came in the state of neglect. Only in 1907 the nuns returned to it and began the reconstruction. They opened a school and dormitory for girls, which was very important for the development of education. But peace at the monastery complex didn't last forever. During the Second World War, 2 nuns were shot by fascists. When the war was over, Soviet Union authorities drove all nuns away. The monastery was closed and became a hospital for many years. Recently, the church and the monastery have been returned to the Catholics. Now, this fantastic building with a rich and fascinating interior, decorated with valuable items of furniture and decor, is a real pride of our town.
Fantastic tourist attraction is St. Andrew's Cathedral. It looks very magnificent with its 2 tall towers. Its facade is painted white and decorated beautifully. It features bigger mantle and layer wall here.
Of great value are the sculptures and paintings inside. The interior is of Rococo style. Outside the church, one can see the wooden statues of St. Peter and St. Paul. Such a grand beauty must be protected and saved forever. But unfortunately, we had nearly lost it. The cathedral had a difficult history. It was named after St. Andrew, one of the 12 apostles, who was the first to be invited by Christ to service and who followed Christ till the end of his life. St. Andrew's Cathedral was built in Slonim in 1490 by the order of King Casimir IV Jagiellon. The church was wooden and it was consecrated 3 years later. At the end of the 16th century, it was reconstructed because of the idea of Lev Sapega. He also gave land to the parish, where there were a hospital, a school and a chapel with a cemetery. But the church was burned down during the Russian-Polish War in the 17th century. A new big stone church was built in 1770 in Slonim, but in 1831 the authorities closed the church, as well as other Catholic cathedrals in the country. After that, service was held in a small chapel. At the beginning of the 20th century, an artist restored the fresco with the scenes from God's mother's life. A new paki and organ were set up. During the First and the Second World Wars, the church was ruined a lot. Then, during the Soviet period, it was used as a store for salt. And only in 1993, after the reconstruction, it was returned to its believers.
This is exhibition illustrates the development of Judaism. The Jews have been living on our territory since the 14th century. In Slonim they settled somewhere in 1551. With the development of trade, the Jewish community in Slonim began to grow rapidly, and their own social and economic life of the town became more important. That is why in 1642, a huge temple of stone, the synagogue, was built by an Italian architect. It was not only a place for religious services, but a part of the town's defensive system. That is why the walls were very massive and 2 meters thick, with narrow windows, and in general it looks powerful but not rich outside. But these magnificent walls hid real artistic treasure. Of great interest was the interior, unique frescoes, sculptures, silver and gold decorations, ornaments, bright colors, symbolic paintings of lions, vases, flowers, musical instruments, stars and crowns, and what not. Unfortunately, we speak about all these things in the past tense, as we can't boast of having all this beauty preserved. The building was greatly damaged during the wars, then it was used for different purposes. As a result, we can watch the ruins of this magnificent building in the center of our town.
What is more, the fate of this folk was also tragic. The Jewish population reached the level of 27,000 in 1939, but during the Second World War, fascists killed more than 19,000 representatives of this nationality in Slonim. Besides, the Soviets contributed a lot to the liquidation of the community. So not so many people of this religious confession live in our town, but they have contributed a lot to our museum with different items.
This exhibit is called Hanukkah. Hanukkah is one of Jews' favorite feasts in honor of the victory of the Jewish people in the 2nd century BC. It has 9 candles. They are lit one by one every day during the feast in the memory of this victory.
Look at this thing. It is called kiara, or a special dish for Seder, the first day of Jewish Easter. It is put in front of the head of the family and is used for putting different foods that have a special meaning. Kiara symbolizes life.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah.
The appearance of the fourth confession Islam is connected with the settlement of the Tatars in Slonim after the victory in Grunwald battle in the 15th-16th centuries. The Tatars were given land and appointed the gods of the town. Their first church, mosque, was built in the 1765. Here the Muslims used to celebrate their festivities with balls during the main holiday Bayram. But before the balls, there were great performances of the youth. They danced, sang songs, recited poems. During the Second World War, their mosque was burnt, and the religious and cultural life came to a standstill. Only in 1992, a new Muslim religious community was organized, and a Sunday school at which children can study the Arab language was opened. Fortunately, in 1994, Muslims got their new mosque for the religious services. The representatives of this religion were very active in creating the exhibition and were really thankful for getting different religious articles.
The main aim of our museum is to help people learn the history of all the 4 confessions on the territory of Slonim region, their traditions, and in this way promote tolerance, respect, and understanding among representatives of different religions. We are absolutely sure that it will contribute to peace in the world.